Hello and welcome to yet another chess analysis video, and today I'll be analyzing an interesting game played in the third round of the ongoing Altibox chess tournament between two of the Norwegian Grandmaster compatriots. Yes, it's Magnus Carlsen taking on Aryan Tari in a classical game. So after winning a spectacular second round game in an Armageddon decider against Firozja, let's see if Carlsen can repeat his winning streak, and for the young Tari this will be a very good experience on the big stage, and let's see if he can pull out a rabbit. So after two rounds, Fabiano is leading the tournament with 6 points and Carlsen is on 4th position with 3 points. So without further ado, let's start the game. So playing with the white pieces, Aryan goes for e4 and c5 replies Carlsen, knight to f3 and knight to c6, d4 and c takes d4, knight takes d4 and knight to f6, knight to c3 and d6, and bishop to g5. So now we are having a Sicilian defense richer rosor variation game on the board. So Carlsen replies with bishop to d7, continuing with the development of the pieces. Now queen to d2 and a6, stopping white from playing knight to b5. And Aryan decide to castle on the queen side and e6, trying to develop the pieces on the king side. So f4 and bishop to e7 and knight to f3. Now b5. Now Aryan takes the knight on f6 by bishop into f6 and g takes f6. Now king to b1, making the king safe, and queen to b6. Now f5, and here Carlsen decides to castle on the queen side. Now bishop to d3, further continuing with the development of the pieces. Now king to b8, prophylactic move by Carlsen to make the king safer, to move the king to a safer square. So knight to e2 with the idea of playing either knight to g3 or knight to f4. So bishop to c8 and knight to f4. Now knight to e5 by Carlsen, trying to win the bishop on d3. So here Aryan plays a bishop to e2 and d5. Here Carlsen is trying to open the d file and launch an attack. So e takes d5 and here e into f5 by Carlsen, and knight to d4, and now bishop to c5, putting pressure. Now rook h f1, trying to win the pawn. Aryan here trying to win the pawn on f5. Now rook h to e8. Here Carlsen is preparing for an attack. If he moves the knight, so he'll be having a open rook file, and here Carlsen is preparing for something like knight to c4 and attack the queen and further continue with the attack. So after rook h to e8, Aryan plays a3, stopping black from playing b4, and now king to a8 and h3, stopping Carlsen from playing a knight to g4 and say with an idea of playing a knight to e3 and attack the rooks. So h3 here is a defensive move, and bishop to d7, and now knight to h5, attacking the f6 pawn, and now knight to c4, attacking the queen. Now bishop takes c4 and b into c4. Now queen to c3, attacking the pawn on c4, and here Carlsen plays rook to b8. Carlsen is trying to launch a strong attack through the open file here. So if Aryan takes the c4 pawn, then queen to b2 is checkmate. So after rook to b8, Aryan plays rook f3, and now here Carlsen plays a wonderful tactical move, and Carlsen played rook to e1. Here Carlsen is offering a rook for a knight. So Aryan readily accepts the offer, and he takes the rook on e1 by playing rook into e1. Now bishop into d4. This is a very strong move because Carlsen is attacking the queen on c3. At the same time, he is targeting the pawn on b2 and launch a very strong attack because the rook and queen is here. It's an open file, so here Carlsen can launch a very strong attack. So that's why he gives up a rook for a knight. So after bishop into d4, Aryan plays queen to b4 and queen to c7, attacking the queen with the rook. So here Aryan goes for counter attack by playing d6. Now queen to c6, then queen a5. Here white is under threat. Anyhow, Carlsen will win the b2 pawn. So bishop into b2. Now if Aryan does not move the king, then definitely he will lose his queen in the next move with a discovered check. So here Aryan plays king to a2, but that won't make his white's king safe. So now bishop to e5 by Carlsen. Now rook to b1, and here Carlsen accept the offer to trade the rook, and he takes a rook into b1 and king into b1, and after that queen into d6. Here Carlsen wins a pawn on d6. Now king to c1, and then queen to d4. Here Carlsen can go like queen to g1, queen to a1 check, and this pawn on c4 is very strong. So after coming to c3, Carlsen can definitely there is so many pieces to launch an attack here. So after queen to d4, with queen to d4, here Carlsen was sacrificing a pawn, which Aryan takes by playing queen into a6 check, but this won't help Aryan to even give perpetual check and go for a draw, because here you can see rook on f3 cannot pose a threat to the the black king, because rook to b3 is covered by the c4 pawn, and say rook to g3 cannot be played because of the bishop, and the knight you can see it's almost dead on h5. So after queen to a6 check, king goes to b8, and here even Aryan cannot play perpetual check, neither he can play queen to b5 or queen to b6. So after king to b8, Aryan plays c3, attacking the queen. So queen goes to g1 with a check. So now king goes to d2, and queen to g2 check with an attack on the rook. So here king plays e3, supporting the rook. So here f4 check and knight into f4. Now bishop into f4 check and rook into f4. Now queen to g3 check. Now rook to f3 and queen to e1 check. Now king to d4 and queen e5 check. Now king into c4. This is a blunder by Aryan. And now queen to e4 check and attacking the rook. Here Aryan will lose the rook on f3. So after queen to e4 check, Aryan plays king to c5. Now queen into f3, winning the rook. King to d6, attacking the bishop. Here Aryan is trying to at least draw the game. Here Carlsen is clearly winning. So bishop to c8. So it was in this position on move 45 that Aryan resigned the game, because even if Aryan plays queen to b6 check, then queen to b7, then Aryan is does not having any options. So even after trading of queens, Carlsen can win the game easily. So it was a wonderful victory for Magnus Carlsen against his compatriot. So hope you all enjoyed the game. So stay tuned for more action from the Altibox Norway Chess Championship, and thank you.